What are you seeing as some of the real challenges that are stopping people from being able to have the tough talk that gets the job done?
I've called them 3 pillars of influence. Number 1, people don't know how to start the conversation. So if I don't know how to start it, I'm not going to have it. The Edelman Trust Barometer, they did a survey and they asked executives, what's keeping you from having these important conversations in the workplace? And the majority of them came back said, we're not having the talk because we don't know how to start it.
Okay.
The second pillar is that,
How does that show up?
let's say in meetings, I was working with a group of epidemiologists out of college recently. Worked with the team and particularly one of the leaders, I asked, what's keeping you from having that conversation? Because you all are very kind to one another at the table, but you clearly have disagreements and you're not handling it in the room. And so what generally happens is the meeting that really counts is the meeting that happens after the meeting.
How do people take this idea forward so that they can have tough conversations more often?
The one thing I do often share is before we get to a performance or the place of performance, we need to plan, to prepare, and we prepare to perform.
So just out of curiosity, when was the last time that a single conversation changed the way that your team worked together? Because we know that team dynamics are important, and when it comes to being able to have tough conversations, when it comes to being able to make magic happen with your team, then it's not as easy as you might think. And Steve, that's why I've got the joy of being able to sit down and chat with you for a few minutes, perched on this melting hot step here in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, hi, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks for the invitation.
Stephen, you've been in this world of workplace communications for more than a few minutes, and what are you seeing as some of the real challenges that are stopping people from being able to have the tough talk that gets the job done?
Yeah, there are 3 things. I've called them 3 pillars of influence that I found, whether it's new managers, newly formed teams, or existing teams.
Okay.
Number 1, people don't know how to start the conversation. So if I don't know how to start it, I'm not going to have it. As a matter of fact, the Edelman Trust Barometer, they did a survey and they asked executives, what's keeping you from having these important conversations in the workplace? And the majority of them came back said, we're not having the talk because we don't know how to start it. So if we can't start it, we're not having it.
Okay.
The second pillar is that they don't know how to sustain the connection.
Got it.
So let's say we actually start the conversation, but what happens when they throw me a curveball? What happens if they give me an objection or they say something that maybe I don't know how to handle? So since I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't know how to sustain that connection, I may not have the conversation.
Okay.
And then the third one, to strengthen the collaboration. So let's say we do start the conversation. Let's say we know how to manage any type of deviation to sustain the connection, but what happens next to ensure that we get something valuable out of this conversation and this partnering? So if I don't know what's going to happen or I'm not fully committed to what happens next, I don't want to have the conversation.
How does that show up?
Let's say in meetings, I was working with a group of epidemiologists out of college recently.
A group of?
Epidemiologists, they write, they make medical policy for diseases, upcoming diseases, and how the country should deal with upcoming diseases.
Okay.
Highly educated.
Important, educated people.
Absolutely. PhDs, peer-reviewed, published authors. At the table, there was this camaraderie, but I noticed that the difficult conversations, the ones that needed to happen, weren't happening.
Okay.
So as I worked with the team and particularly one of the leaders, I asked, what's keeping you from having that conversation? Because you all are very kind to one another at the table, but you clearly have disagreements and you're not handling it in the room. And so what generally happens is the meeting that really counts is the meeting that happens after the meeting.
Okay.
It's the one in the hallway. And it's, why didn't you talk about this with everybody else in the room? Well, I didn't want to offend anyone. Well, you realize that by not wanting to offend them, you've now hampered the productivity and the results that this team could actually produce if you dealt with the disagreements together.
So what advice do you have to leaders, to individuals inside the workplace to be able to speak up more freely, to be able to actually engage in conversations and have those tough talks? Because sure, like they don't have them because they don't know how to start them, or they're fearful of some form of objection, or they're unsure of what value it's going to have longer term. But how do you encourage people to actually speak up?
Yeah. With techniques, but with some philosophy.
Okay.
Right. I'll start with the philosophy. If I don't plan and design the conversation ahead of time, I am at the mercy of someone else designing it as we go along.
Okay.
So the power of anticipation is there. if I were to say this thing I'm thinking of, how might this person react, and what would I say to respond? So to be able to predict it is absolutely key. So
Okay.
think about it and anticipate it. But it's probably more important to preempt it. So preempting the challenge might sound like using a contrasting statement.
Okay.
Phil, I don't want you to think that I'm against your idea. I do want us to consider some alternatives. How open are you to considering some alternatives in addition to your idea?
So that pre-frame of, Phil, I don't want you to think I'm against your idea. Could that not get somebody's back up where they think that instantly you are against their idea? It's like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but
Yeah.
is it not that?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And notice that I didn't use the but.
Yeah.
There were two separate statements. It was, this is its own statement. I don't want you to think I'm against your idea.
Okay.
Period. I want us to consider some alternatives in addition to your idea. How open are you to that?
Okay.
It's an invitation, right? And they're two separate statements.
So you got the upfront frame.
Yeah.
You've then got the wish. You've then got the ask.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
How does that show up in other areas? Let's see if we can run a number of other models where you've got this sort of frame, you've got your wish or your desire, and then you've got an open-minded ask.
Wow.
Let's put you to work.
Yeah. You have a context?
Well, we can
Perhaps?
go any context we like. Is I know for certain that there are people right now that are struggling to invite people to make changes to maybe their productivity levels inside of their role, or what it takes to be able to get a project over the line.
Okay. All right.
Let's see if I can jam on this. So somebody's struggling with productivity. They're trying to get something done, and they think they're doing it the right way.
Yep.
But you know as their leader that there might be a better way for them to be able to deliver upon this. So if I'm using your formula of an upfront frame, and then I'm putting a wish and then an open-minded ask. So I'm going to put an upfront frame is, look, I know that the way that you're trying to be able to do things is because that what you are looking to achieve is the best outcome in the shortest period of time.
Yep.
Now, there may also be other ways that this could be done. How open-minded would you be to considering some other alternatives to your existing processes?
Yep. That would work for me. As I'm listening to it, I'm leaning in, going, yeah. You agreed with me in the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's not adversarial. You've aligned yourself as my ally.
Yeah.
Now you've also recognized there might be an alternative, and you're inviting me to participate instead of telling me I'm wrong or telling me what to do.
And here we are at a professional speakers event.
Yeah.
So using your same framework, whilst I'm being put on the spot here today, is I could say, so Steven, I know that you've been in the coaching, training, professional speaking business for quite some time, and you carry a huge amount of experience into the results you achieve for your clients. Mm-hmm. And I also know that you have an appetite for growth, and that you're always looking for ways that you can better yourself. Mm-hmm. And the way that you're doing things right now might not necessarily be the only way that you could achieve the outcomes that you're looking for. Yeah. So how open-minded would you be to exploring some other ideas that could help you to be able to increase your trajectory kind of either quicker or with better results?
Yeah.
So give me a random context to see if we can try and break this framework.
Oh, we're going to try to break it. I like it.
Okay. What could be a random context that we're trying to be able to deliver something less than good news so that we can have a tough conversation?
Yep.
Any environment. Let's try and create an alternative context.
How about our children?
Whew. Thanks, man. Just start with the easy one.
Yeah.
Start with the easy one. And what do we want our children to be doing differently?
Maybe they're at the age where they're considering a partner to marry. Even heavier.
Oh man, we're raising the stakes up.
Yeah.
And they like this guy or girl?
They like them.
And you're not so keen?
Yep.
Whew.
I'm not so keen, or I want to invite them to really consider perhaps things that they haven't considered about moving forward.
Ah, okay. So you want to open up just a bigger discussion about like how sure is sure.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to use your formula. We're going to try it along this scenario that I've had approximately no seconds to prepare for. Okay, so what we're going to say is in the opening frame is like, hey, honey, you know that I love you. Mm-hmm. And you know that I know that you don't make any decisions without giving a huge amount of thoughtful thought.
Yeah.
And I also need you to know that the last thing in the world that I'd want you to do is to make a decision that you'd later regret.
Yeah.
So there's my upfront statement, my frame, and my fact. Yeah. And that, like, hey, before we move forward at pace.
Yeah.
How open-minded would you be to just looking at the big picture with me?
Yeah.
Because what we're doing in these examples, even as we play these out, is we're shifting control in the conversation, but not to 100% control.
Correct.
Just moving the 60-40 balance. And you're earning trust for the direction, and you're taking a position of leadership that says we can now have a bigger conversation that doesn't have a guaranteed outcome.
That's right.
That's the magic in this,
It
right?
is.
You're not saying I want you to change. You're saying maybe we can look at a different potential perspective, zoom out. This works. This works. I like finding frameworks that are difficult to break, to be able to break. Stephen, how does this become a practice? Like if people are going to try to think this way in their area of leadership, whatever they're leading, whether they're leading a team, whether they're leading a church group, whether they're leading their families, whether they're leading their relationships, like how do people take this idea forward so that they can have tough conversations more often?
Yeah. I'm going to borrow what I've learned from you.
Okay.
In our relationship. Conversational, cornerstone of conversational excellence, number one. The worst time to think about what you're saying is in the moment when you're saying it.
Yeah.
Absolutely critical. So the one thing I do often share is before we get to a performance or the place of performance, we need to plan, to prepare, and we prepare to perform. We plan to prepare and prepare to perform. So before I'm even going into those conversations, I am thinking and taking some Renaissance time and thinking and inviting people to think, what may happen in this conversation and how might I design the flow so that I'm still using curiosity-based inquiry while still staying in the conversation to make this thing count. So plan and think about what could go wrong. What are the risks? What might other people say? What have they said in the past and where did I get stuck? Get there. Number two would be to prepare. Now, this is as easy as taking some time if you have drive time and just talking out loud and listening to yourself. Come up with what would you say and what words would you use to put in those frames so you can prepare for that. So I know that in this meeting, Phil is going to bring up an idea that I know I'm going to disagree with and everybody else is going to agree with. That could be uncomfortable. So I'm going to think about how might I bring this up if or when Phil does speak up on this idea. So preparing preparing before you have to perform is going to be key. So give yourself repetition. Give yourself a moment for repetition. And then in a moment, hey, listen, have courage, humility, and discipline. The courage to speak up, humility to realize you may be wrong, and a discipline to actually get it done.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think also practicing in low stakes environments. You don't have to save the use of the framework and the technique till it really matters. Is you could bring it to your next dinner conversation. You could bring it to breakfast tomorrow morning, and you could bring it to, conversation with a buddy that you're going to go out and meet and work out with at the gym. And it could be as simple as like, hey, I know that you come to the gym because your desire and your goal is to be able to achieve fantastic results for your long-term health. And I know that you don't necessarily have all of the information for what it's going to be taking to accelerate those results. And as much as I can see you putting maximum effort, how open-minded would you be to exploring some ways that you could make some subtle changes that would allow that effort to deliver meaningful results?
That's it.
So it's pretty clear that people are avoiding conversations. They'd be getting better results if they weren't avoiding so many of those conversations. It would make a giant difference to the workplace if they could actually competently step into those conversations. What would you say to somebody about why this matters and how to make a start?
Yeah, well, now that you've seen and heard a model to be able to use to start having these conversations. Number one, a philosophy. Conflict avoided is conflict multiplied. So if you're not having those conversations now, the risk of having them later is actually going to be a lot higher than it is having them now. And then the last part is going to be, how committed are you to actually putting this into practice? So we can ask it in two ways. What are going to be your next best steps? Or who are going to be the next few people who you will start using this framework with to see if you can have better conversations? Or number two, what might be the obstacles that will get in your way to keep you from having those conversations? And can you address those obstacles so that you can start having these conversations that really matter for you and for others? I'm wishing you the greatest success.